Until 2018, Boeing had the world convinced that it was safe to get on a bus with wings and fly over the ocean. And for 100 years, they had our trust.
Then the first 737 MAX crash happened.
And then again in March 2019, when a second plane hit the ground.
This is the story of downfall, the case against Boeing.
Welcome to The Disorg, a podcast where we unpack big ideas from documentaries and the tangents that they lead us down. I'm Mo.
I'm Grant.
I'm Christian.
And I'm Katie.
How did our economic system incentivize Boeing to cut corners? Is it happening in other industries? Also, why are Boeing's whistleblowers dying off one by one?
If you make it to the green room, let us know. And check out the description to know what we're watching next.
A bear walks into a bar and he walks up to the bar and he says, hey, can I get an old fashioned? And the bartender looks at him and is like, wait, what's with the big pause? And he says, what do you mean? I'm a bear.
That's fucking stupid. God, why did I laugh at that?
I knew
'Cause it's
immediately.
funny.
I knew immediately. You're like, what's with the big pause? I went,
Boom! And so I will begin with a quick summary of what happened in the documentary to give everybody context in case you haven't watched it. Hey guys, Mo from the future here. My summary for this was way too long, so I've re-recorded it. Here is my 90-second summary of the documentary, which, by the way, you can watch on Netflix. Basically, we learn how Boeing's pivot from prioritizing safety to prioritizing profits led to two fatal crashes of its 737 MAX jets, killing 346 people in total. Now, for a long time, Boeing was known for safety and reliability. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going was how people felt. But after some corporate restructuring, Boeing's culture changed. It became all about cutting costs to boost stock prices, regardless of safety risks. Fast forward to 2018, and a jet crashed in Indonesia, and then another one crashed in Ethiopia. And both crashes were tied to a software system on the aircraft called MCAS that was not properly tested, nor was it explained to pilots. This documentary shows what happens when short-term stock gains becomes a company's only guiding force. Also, fun fact, when I pitched this documentary to the squad, I kept saying Boeing, and they had no idea what I was talking about. I now know it's pronounced Boeing, not Boing. But that's what happens when you've only ever read a word and never heard it said out loud. Anyway, let's move on to the discussion, shall we? So, what did you guys think?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
It's an
good.
infuriating documentary in many ways.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like, I also like how, this was really early on, but this is just a note that I made, was they're like, yeah, safety in planes, most people feel great about flying. And I'm like, I must be the minority then, because I still don't like flying.
Interesting.
I'm always saying to Chris, I'm like, what if I crash? Like,
what if I die?
and he's like, Katie, it's really not that
This
common.
is the thing, is that okay, if we take a step back and we actually look at...
He's right. I'm
No,
just
yeah,
saying
you're
it's
100%
funny.
right,
It's
but-
funny.
I just think it's an interesting point that, like, in the grand scheme of things, from Boeing's track record, these two crashes after however many flights is actually such a small fraction. So even with these two crashes, it's still incredibly safe to fly. The problem is their frequency with which that they occurred, and specifically this system that literally caused the crashes, as opposed to some other like random other malfunctions that, you know, were not a literal design flaw that was kept from the Federal Aviation Administration and regulators, and even from pilots themselves. I think that's the most fucked up part of this entire thing. Is like, here's a system that literally is going to take control, right? It'd be like you're driving in a car and the car starts to turn on you for no reason, and you're like, what is going on? And you have to try to correct, and if you don't react in time, you're going to swerve into oncoming traffic. That would be like however many cars would need to crash before that gets off the road. You know, like look at the Tesla cars and their automatic I don't know why I said it like that. Their automatic driving, you know, their driverless steering or whatever they would call it. I actually don't know.
Self-drive. I think it's just full self-driving. Yeah.
Thank you. Full self-driving. That there are instances in where they need the driver to take over because it's like, hey, I can't handle this situation. I don't know what's going on. And even that's been under massive scrutiny. And that was just like and that's public. That's like known. They disclosed that. This was undisclosed, and so severely flawed. I mean, I think it's so crazy that after they recognized that it was the MCAS system, and they told the pilots about it, that the second crash from Ethiopian Airlines, they were reviewing the black box records, and the co-pilot did exactly what Boeing told them to do inside of the reaction time, which was 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to react. And if you don't, it's a catastrophic failure. And I think what's the most fucked up about that is that even though he did, it didn't matter because of the speed that they were going. They couldn't manually put the horizontal stabilizers back into the correct position to level out the plane. So it's just like it wasn't good enough on top of it. And it all could have been avoided, which is really sad.
Really unfortunate. What do you think, Mo?
In terms of the doc itself, it felt very much traditional, right? Like this is like your stereotypical documentary, just mostly interview based, and the interviewer did not insert themselves in there. But I thought they did a pretty good job at like finding all of the different people that might be relevant to the story, like the regulators, the people that work there, the whistleblowers, the families
other pilots,
that were affected.
the pilots
I
themselves.
really liked
that to
seeing
me,
Sully Sullenberg,
Yeah,
who was the
right?
guy who like landed on the Hudson. It's
Miracle
like here's
on the
someone,
Hudson.
here's someone who like literally has gone through almost a catastrophic event and saved people. I mean, it was really cool to see experts in the field be like, yeah, this is not right. We didn't even know what it was, blah, blah, blah. It just reaffirms a lot of the points.
Yeah. I mean, like, how are you supposed to react to something that you didn't know was there? Especially when you're actively flying a hunk of metal through the sky.
I think it's really interesting. I wonder what would happen. We can go more into this in my tangent. It's different, but very similar circumstances. I wonder what would have been the case if it was an American pilot, because the first pilot's wife was like, I don't think it's racist, blah, blah, blah. But they were blaming the country. They were blaming lack of training, the pilots, etc. And I mean, it was so easy for them to be like, if it was a U.S. pilot, this wouldn't have happened.
Well,
but
he finished his training in the United States.
U.S., yeah.
He trained in the United States. He's
Exactly.
a U.S. pilot for all intents and purposes.
Exactly. Like, there's no legs to stand on. I just wonder if they made the documentary and the people who would have crashed, the pilot was American, what would be the narrative that they were putting forth? Because they thought they could stand on that, which is just so xenophobic and disgusting. But still, like, I think it's xenophobic. But, and I'm not saying the wife said that, but yeah, I just wonder what it would have said if not for that.
Yeah.
I agree. They would have found something else, like
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
disparaging his school
speaking
or
of
something.
Sully Sullivan, didn't he face scrutiny? Even though he saved the lives of all those people,
That's right.
I feel like this is partially to my tangent in a certain degree, but this documentary and this whole scenario, like, this is one of the scandals of our generations. Like, this is huge, and the fact that it was basically attempted to be covered up in many ways, but it really shows where we're at. Not to be like we live in a society, but it shows where we are currently in the world. Where they put profits over everything else. And even when this terrible flaw literally caused the death of hundreds of people, they were prepared to let it continue for profits. And they were ready to like do everything in their power. They said it was like, this is like, what's so insane to me is that this is like caught red-handed. They have all of this internal data and these reports. And this, like, I think the most one was literally where it's like, inside of their own report that I think they got from the FAA. I can't remember if it was just an internal report where it's like, if this is not reacted to and fixed within 10 seconds, it's catastrophic. It's a catastrophic failure. And even with that data point, they didn't do anything about it. Insane.
Well, yeah, like also like the managers in the warehouse were told not to document stuff So they didn't know about stuff, so they had plausible deniability.
And the wiring that they would find, like, it's really scary. I think that was one of the points where I really was sort of gassed, where it's like, yeah, they were told not to document things. It's so interesting because as I was watching this, I thought of what my tangent's about, and I was like, it's really crazy. I mean, it's similar to like the opioid crisis, like the things that just keep going on because a huge company wants to make a profit and they don't care about human life.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Like, my tangent is super short if we're good with going into tangents.
Yeah, let's do it.
I just had like why did they merge? Did they need extra money? Like, what happened there where Boeing needed to merge with somebody else because they were so like if it's not Boeing, I'm not going. Like, clearly they had a really great reputation. So it doesn't really make much sense to me why they would merge and then completely change structure. Like, I don't really understand why that happened.
Well, that part, I don't know the exact reason, but it goes partly into my tangent, which is fiduciary responsibility, right?
I'm actually looking why they might have merged.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
But
like,
continue.
so there's a level of business sense, and this is my tangent, is fiduciary responsibility, because it's like misunderstood in some ways and then not in another, where fiduciary responsibility is often misquoted or misrepresented as meaning that companies need to do everything in their power to raise profits, and that's why layoffs happen or like shit like this happens. But that's not legally what fiduciary responsibility says, right? There's nothing in fiduciary responsibility that says companies must increase the stock price and make more money, right? Fiduciary responsibility only means that you need to make decisions that are in the best interests of the company that you're working for. That's what fiduciary responsibility means. And that's deniability. You know what I mean? Well, I was doing it in the interests of the company. So when you have this parent company, what was it, McDonnell-Douglas, being like, I'm going to offer you a lucrative amount of money, right, to buy this company. If they were to say no, they could be held legally liable for not upholding their fiduciary responsibility, and at the very least sacked, if not had a full-blown lawsuit attached to it. So legally, and this is where it's like, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Right? Why are there laws in place that basically say that you can't say no when you're offered that much money? There's a certain level. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a scholar of law. So I can be putting my foot in my mouth right now. But to me, that seems to be probably the reason why they did a merger, is because, well, we're a publicly traded company. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, to the board, to whatever. And this would make us a lot of money, which is just good business sense, right? Isn't that just good business sense? It's a difference in business philosophy. Boeing's philosophy was, for the longest time, we're going to just make a good product and we will see profits as a result, right? We're going to do it right. And I mean, like, look at other companies like, I brought up Steinway and Sons today. They're not a publicly traded company, but they make pianos and they are renowned as like the industry standard for performance pianos because their quality is so high. They're priced accordingly. It's like $90,000 for an entry price to a grand piano, but they are the most beautiful instruments, right? And there's a reason that they're priced that way, is because the materials, the labor, the name, all of it means something and it's worth that much. And then if for whatever reason Steinway and Sons became a publicly traded company, and Yamaha, I don't know, but like, let's say Yamaha buys Steinway and Sons and they get like all up into that, then they can do whatever they want. They can say, well, we want to maximize profits on this, so we're going to keep the price the same, but we're going to drop the quality of the materials. We're going to cut the labor. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, right? But it's all good business sense. It's all fiduciary responsibility. I had to, I had to for the stock price. And that's what I took away from this documentary too, is just like, this is it. This is where we're at, where you can use that as an excuse, because what they did was criminal. It was legitimately criminal, and the FAA said so. But rather than charging them like actually charging them with criminal charges. They just slapped them with a big fine, which is also very representative of where we are, where it's like you did something really fucked up and criminal and you attempted to, I feel like they said attempted to defraud. I think they successfully defrauded us. Not just the FAA, but the entire, population of the world to a certain degree. It's not just, this didn't just affect Americans.
Right.
It's an American company, but it didn't just affect Americans. So what the fuck? If anything, they should have been charged with manslaughter for killing all of those people. Right? But, well, it's just, that doesn't fall into fiduciary responsibility, but that's the reason why they were purchased. And that's the reason why they accepted. And that's the reason why they did all these things. Well, it's because we have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. It's just like, they don't legally have to increase the share price, but they can use that as an excuse to do it. And that's what they did.
Here's my thought. Like, going back to like, that all makes sense, business sense wise. Like, but what happened to like the CEO before the merger? Like that, like built this. Oh yeah, Katie, please.
I don't know exactly what happened to the CEO. I can go back, but actually Boeing acquired McDonnell-Douglas. So basically,
wait, what?
Yeah, it said the two companies have been competitors for many years, but as the industry entered the 1990s, McDonnell-Douglas struggled to keep up with the mighty Boeing and European rival Airbus. Rumors of a merger between the pair began to circulate, but no official announcement was made until December 1996. Despite early concerns from regulatory bodies, namely the European Commission, the U.S. $13.3 billion stock swap merger was approved 7 months later. The Boeing name would survive, and a new corporate identity was introduced. The new look was created by graphic designer, blah, blah, blah. The deal allowed Boeing to use McDonnell-Douglas's surplus factory capacity. The latter had long seen a downturn in their commercial airliner business. Just the MD-80, MD-90, MD-95, and MD-11 were in production at the time. Only the MD-95 and MD-11 would survive, albeit with the MD-95 renamed the Boeing 717 and the MD as a freighter only. Where McDonnell-Douglas excels was in its military aircraft. The manufacturer supplied aircraft to the United States, Great Britain, Italy, and Japan, amongst others. The merger allowed Boeing to gain a much firmer footing in the military sector. And then another article I found. Boeing wanted to establish dominance and show the world who was boss in the airline industry. I guess now we can also say the military. So it decided to acquire another plane manufacturer called McDonnell-Douglas. It was a massive merger worth $14 billion. So we're in the 13-14 billion range. Now, after the merger, the new entity retained the Boeing name. It was expected since it was Boeing that splashed the cash, but the problem was that the culture of McDonnell-Douglas seeped in. And that changed the face of Boeing completely.
How does that even happen, though? Because if Boeing is buying McDonnell-Douglas, like, wouldn't like the corporate structure remain the same?
So then it goes on to say, see, the Boeing of the pre-merger era was called an engineers company. The one who made these flying machines called the shots. Cost didn't matter, and it was only quality and design that did. They wanted to ensure that only their best ideas took to the skies. Safety was paramount. And the chief financial officer, who was answerable to Wall Street about the cost, didn't care much about trying to impress the bankers either. But after the merger, everything changed. This is also a bit of a dramatic article in FinShots. I don't know FinShots really. But the CEO of McDonnell-Douglas actually became the CEO of Boeing. A chairman with no aviation background, but who worked in General Electric, was also appointed. The company started paying attention to creating shareholder value, which was hardly a priority earlier. And as one article put it, quote, now a passion for great planes was replaced with a passion for affordability, end quote. Boeing even turned to outsourcing critical operations. Sure, it made the balance sheet asset light, but it came at the cost of quality.
That's wild.
I mean, like that now, I mean, like I still stand by everything I said regarding fiduciary responsibility, which is ultimately what led to the current scenario, but that's insane.
And then it goes on to say, at first, no one said anything. Sure, there was a joke that went, quote, McDonnell-Douglas bought Boeing with Boeing's money, end quote. But it was a harmless observation. The planes kept rolling off the conveyor belt. But then 2018 happened and the death of Boeing's culture came to the fore.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. But like, why? Why do it that way? You don't even need to have the McDonnell-Douglas person become the CEO, which that makes sense why this all happened now. But for why?
It doesn't really make sense.
No, I mean, like if you are that's kind of wow. Sorry, I'm literally flabbergasted. I'm speechless at this revelation because, yeah.
I love
if
when
you're
y'all
the-
are flabbergasted. I was going to say slabbergasted.
Slabbergasted.
I love when you guys are flabbergasted at my research. I love to do that.
But like, what the? How can you buy a company and then just like hand it? That'd be like you go and you buy a car and then you hand the keys to the person who sold it. And you're like, all right,
Here's my
You're
thank you.
like,
guess.
later, dude.
Here's my guess with not doing any more research. I'm guessing that they wanted, just from what I read, I'm guessing they're like, hey, we want a military stronghold, which we know holds a ton of money. Yeah, Mo, you're right. Corporate cucks. They're like, we want a military stronghold. They combine together and they're like, you know what? We also need to make more money because we always saw in the documentary was like Airbus is surpassing us. Let's do this. So they were like, okay, we should get the person who knows how to make money and has stock shareholder value at the forefront of their mind, and that's how we'll make more money.
Just a quick observation too. I think this is a really good point of, oh yeah, this. I mean, the documentary did what it was supposed to do, right? Where it made us very angry about this and upset about this scenario. And I think what this is kind of revealing to us is not that it's any less fucked up, but that it's less insidious to a certain degree, is like the merger, specifically the merger, where it seemed in the midst of watching the documentary that this is a hostile takeover essentially, and the culture shifted like that, where it just sounds like, as what you were saying, Katie, Boeing was like, well, we have competition that's creeping up from Airbus, so let's do a smart move. Let's buy our competitor so that we have more manufacturing production capabilities. And then we have a chunk of military aerospace. And there we go. We're back into market dominance. But then over some period of time, they're like, Airbus is still kind of creeping up on us, still like getting close to our market line. Well, what do we have to do to stop that from happening? And that's where the ideas of these two companies kind of start to intermingle. It's like, well, you want to beat Airbus? Well, we got to start cutting costs.
Well, you know what I was going to say too, that really stood out to me in the documentary is that they were like, the Airbus company came out with this really high tech, like state of the art plane. And they were like,
fuel efficient. It was incredibly fuel efficient.
Really fuel efficient. And they were like, that's skyrocketing. People were like really excited about it. And this is where it comes in, where the company was like, well, we want to do that, but we don't want to make a new plane. Also, we don't want to train people on a new plane because that requires a lot of money. So here is the MAX. The MAX is fuel efficient, but it came with all these problems because people were not trained on how to actually fly the MAX. So in turn, it's going to cost them money. But as we know, a huge lawsuit isn't really going to do much. And they still potentially have the ability to kill off whistleblowers. So I mean, but that was what was so crazy to me is they figured through this. They're like, okay, how do we keep up with this? Okay, take the same plane, put a better engine in it, do all these things, but we don't want to teach anybody about the new things. So let's call it, I wrote it down. Mo was mentioning this before. Let's call it an addition to speed trim, and actually what it was a software change, the MCAS, and it will only be communicated internally. So we can say it doesn't need any more training because there's nothing new to learn when there is in fact something new to learn, and it has now cost over 300 lives.
I mean, I think that's what's so crazy about it too, is that it's just like every step of the way, it was like a cost-saving maneuver that led to cutting corners, that led to cost-saving maneuvers, led to cutting the corners. I mean, like, they took the same plane, they put a more efficient engine on it, but because of the engine's design, it needs to be shifted up this way. So that makes it more likely to stall if it's going at a certain height. Well, how do we get around that without having to train people? Okay, well, let's put in a piece of software that's going to automatically level it out so that they don't even do that in the first place.
Because that won't freak them out.
Because that, exactly, right? And that way we don't, but then that requires training because that's like new information that could happen at any point in time. Well, we don't want to do that. Let's cut corners. Let's just, not tell them. Like, holy crap. It's just, it's compounding, cascading decisions.
Can I go with my tangent now?
Yeah. Please.
Okay. So this is going to be a big one, brothers. And the moral of the story is don't fly on Maxes and don't use Teflon. Okay, let's do it. So have you guys heard of the Teflon and Dupont lawsuit?
Mm-mm.
No?
A little
Not
bit.
specifically.
Okay. So a movie came out in 2019 with Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway, two of the hottest people on the planet and most talented people on the planet.
Shouts out.
Shouts out. And it is actually based on a true story. I am referencing an article from the New York Times. We will have it down in the description. I'm not going to explain the entire article and the entire movie because that will take up an hour or more. So I do have 2 pages of notes, but I'll do my best to be as consolidated as possible. So basically, we are in West Virginia. Rob Bilott, who is a real life person, is a corporate defense attorney, a partner at Taft, Stetinus, and Hollister. And he's worked in the field for 8 years when he receives a call from a farmer named Wilbur Tennant of Parkersburg, West Virginia. Tennant claimed that he needed help because his cows were dying left and right, and he thought of DuPont, the chemical company who created Teflon. He thought they were responsible because they had, until recently, operated a site in Parkersburg that is more than 35 times the size of the Pentagon, for context. The reason he got Bilott's number is because Bilott's grandmother, Alma Holland White, had lived in Vienna, which is a northern suburb of Parkersburg. Bilott, when he was a little kid, used to visit her in the summers, and in 1973, she brought him to the cattle farm belonging to the Tennant's neighbors. So Wilbur Tennant is our main guy right here. The neighbors are over here, and the attorney that's going to work on this case with Wilbur Tennant was going around and going during the summer and riding horses and milking cows, and he had the best time ever. So in 1998, when the Grahams, the family he visited, realized and heard from Tennant that he needed a lawyer, they remembered that Bilott had become an environmental lawyer, but they didn't realize that he was a defense attorney representing these large chemical companies like DuPont, and even had some cases involving them. But he did a favor for his grandmother, and he was like, it felt like the right thing to do. I felt a connection to the folks. In the movie, it's a lot of back and forth. Wilbur Tennant is this like really farm dude. Like we're talking like Appalachia, like really kind of brisk guy. And he's like, I need you to help me. And he's like, I can't do that. I don't work in this field. And then eventually they start working together. For background on Tennant, he and his 4 siblings had run this cattle farm since their father abandoned them as children, and they only had 7 cows. They slowly acquired land and cattle into 200 cows, roamed the more than 600 hilly acres. It would have been larger, but Tennant's brother Jim, who worked at the DuPont factory, they sold 66 acres in the early 80s to be used as a landfill for waste for the factory. Jim was employed there, and they didn't want to sell, but Jim had been in poor health for years, mysterious ailments that doctors couldn't diagnose, and they needed the money. So not long after the sale, the cattle began to act deranged. They had always been like pets to the family, basically like big dogs. They were like coming over, nuzzling them, letting themselves be milked by the family. And now when they saw the farmers, they charged at them, blood running out of their noses. And Wilbur started taking videos of them and started documenting. But this is like during the 90s, so it would be VHS videos. He dissected the cows. And this is a crazy moment in the film because he takes the dead cows and he starts cutting up their organs. And he's like, this isn't right. And it's like a fucking lung, something crazy, and their liver. And he was like, no vets in the area are taking my cows. I need to figure out what's going on. It showed discoloration in their organs. In the live ones, you could see stringy tails, malformed hooves, giant lesions, constant diarrhea, white slime from their mouths, and staggering around bow-legged. So their legs were misformed. It was crazy. And he was like, there's something wrong. And I think it's from the water that they're drinking. It's this green water that's coming out in the landfill. So Tennant filed a suit. Actually, I think it was, Bilott filed a suit in 1999 because he's like, you're totally right. Something's going on. And, quote, DuPont's in-house lawyer, Bernard Riley, informed him that DuPont and the EPA would commission a study of the property conducted by 3 veterinarians chosen by DuPont and 3 chosen by the EPA. Their report did not find DuPont responsible for the cattle's health problems. The culprit instead was poor husbandry, poor nutrition, inadequate veterinary care, and lack of fly control. In other words, the tenants did not know how to raise cattle. If the cows were dying, it was their own fault. Doesn't that sound familiar? So, to summarize this all, because we can go on forever, Balot sees in a letter from DuPont to the EPA that a substance was named that was in the landfill, and it's called PFOA. And he, working in this area for the longest time, he's like, I've never heard of PFOA. It is short for, and excuse my pronunciation, perfluor. It's literally has like
put it in the chat so we can see.
Perfluorotanoic acid. Honestly, it has so many O's. It's shocking. Perfluorotanoic acid. PFOA, we're going to call it.
That is a lot of O's.
Perfluorotanoic. Okay. He got a court order for all the documents from DuPont. It was all private internal correspondence, medical and health reports, and confidential studies conducted by DuPont scientists. There were more than 110,000 pages of documents. And it was all stating that they knew this was bad. So Balot took all of his time. Meanwhile, he's like, his wife is pissed at him in the movie. He's like, you're not here for us. You're only like waiting by the phone. He's examining all of these documents. So by the 90s, Balot discovered DuPont understood that PFOA caused cancerous testicular, pancreatic, and liver tumors in lab animals. So they were aware. One laboratory study suggested possible DNA damage from the PFOA exposure, and a study of workers linked exposure with prostate cancer. They tried to develop an alternative. This sounds similar, but they decided against it. Quote, the risk was too great. Products manufactured with PFOA were an important part of DuPont's business, worth $1 billion in annual profit. So like your Teflon pans, the non-stick pans is what we're talking about. Teflon is what makes your pans non-stick. But there's a lot of the quotes from the article. But the crucial discovery from the tenant case was this. By the late 1980s, as DuPont became increasingly concerned about the health effects of PFOA waste, it decided they needed to find a landfill for the toxic sludge dumped on company property. Fortunately, they had recently bought 66 acres from a low-level employee at the Washington Works facility that would do perfectly. And we can talk about all the financial different levels of class here, but we can tell where this is going. So Balot spent the following months drafting a public brief against DuPont. It was 972 pages long, including 136 attached exhibits. This letter led 4 years later in 2005 to DuPont's reaching a $16.5 million settlement with the EPA, which had accused the company of concealing its knowledge of PFOA's toxicity and presence in the environment in violation of the Toxic Substances Control Act. So in the movie, you'll also see this. If you guys watch the movie, people in this surrounding community were given a financial incentive to get tested to see if their body had these chemicals. And Balot represented 70,000 people who had been drinking PFOA-laced drinking water for decades. And they would get a cash reward of $400.
Wait, say that again?
$400?
That's what the people would get. But think about this. These are farming people. These are people in the 2000s, like down in Virginia. But people are like, I just need the money. Like they just want to get tested. And they're like, the only way, because these people are like, they don't trust the government. They don't trust this scientific testing after everything that's going on. These are sick people. And they're like, we want to test you. We will give you $400 because they're trying to test 70,000 people at this point. It is crazy. Trust me. I know it's crazy. So
wait, sorry. I need to be 100% clear here. Who's doing the testing?
The EPA, but with Balot is pushing this because he wants to prove basically.
But no, let me, before you move on. So the EPA is the one who's doing the testing, these people. The $400, where is it coming from?
I think it's coming from the lawsuit.
So that's as part of the settlement.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's part of the settlement. But basically, they like can't really move forward with things until they know that people have actually been affected. You can't really like, and this testing takes a really long time. If I'm wrong, people, you can check the article and you can also watch the movie. There's a lot of information, lots of numbers. So I'm just summarizing it as best I can. So obviously, in the end, we find out that DuPont was poisoning the water, making the cows and the family sick. Wilbur, who's the farmer in the beginning, and his wife both end up dying of cancer, and they have like teenage girls. In the years that Balat was working on the case, it became an obsession for him, documented in the movie. In total, 70,000 people were drinking poisoned water. Some had been doing so for decades. And the numbers that they have, and this was in 2016, so it's definitely been more than this article was in 2016, so it's definitely more. We're looking at states of uncertainty. No one knows for certain. I can bring up this article because that'll be helpful, I think. But it reminded me a lot of Boeing. This was a movie I had seen on our way back from LA 2 months ago. And immediately I was watching this, I'm like, wow, I know what to talk about. So no one knows for certain how much PFOA is safe to drink. Rob Balat's lawsuit against DuPont of West Virginia included anyone whose drinking water had levels above 0.05 parts per billion. But last June, based on a comprehensive review of previous health studies, blah, 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 named an approximate safe level of 0.001, which means that like even the smallest amount can be extremely dangerous for people in their drinking water. So in the movie, it's a devastating moment when these people are realizing it's the water, because they're like, this is the water that our animals have been drinking, but like, where do we get our water? And then they realize that you see Wilbur has a horrible cough. They're super sick. And all the people surrounding are drinking the water. It's a horrifying. Think about like, you're like, okay, well, where do I get my water from? My water's poisoned and I've been drinking it for so many years. You can't avoid drinking water. You really can't avoid it unless you're going to buy bottled water. And at that point, they didn't know what was happening. So here is the estimated numbers of people in each state whose drinking water is affected. And that's the numbers now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And you get $400.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, because I agree, it's definitely super weird, but if you see in the movie, it's I think what they were suggesting is like this is a post this is in the early 2000s, so we're right after the AIDS epidemic. So I think people are really afraid of needles. They don't trust the government. These are people who have been continually left behind by the government. We even see that now in Appalachia, where people feel very abandoned because they're extremely poor. They're living off the land, a lot of people. And people in the United States make fun of them and think they are hicks. And this is a lot of the reason why the opioid epidemic has been so huge in these communities, because they're poor, they're looking for a way out, they don't have a lot of money, and they're desperate. And sometimes they're doing physical labor, they end up getting injured, and they start taking painkillers. And sometimes these people's only way out and their only relief from the life that they are living. And people make fun of them. So it's disgusting. But anyway, in us talking about Boeing and everything that we are seeing, it is another instance of a huge company knowing that they are killing people or setting up to kill people, even in more drastic amounts. Not that we're going to measure any human life here against each other, but yeah, they get some sort of lawsuit. Balat did a ton of work. I mean, if you watch the movie, it's so obvious how long he was working to try to bring this to justice. But we still do not know how many people are affected, because Teflon is in frying pans, and people are becoming more and more aware of it. But when you're poisoned by water, there's not much way out of that, you know?
I'm like, well, how do you even like indict? Is that the right word? How do you even like try and criminally charge somebody, like a company?
Well, that's where the testing comes in.
Well, because so I just did a quick search, and yeah, during the testing, it settled a class action lawsuit that required the company to provide $235 million for medical monitoring of more than 70,000 people. In 2017, DuPont settled 3,550 PFOA lawsuits for 671 million, but denied any wrongdoing. Then in March 2020, a jury unanimously, oh my God, found DuPont responsible for contaminating the Abbott's drinking water with PFAs, and awarded $40 million in compensatory damages. And then in December of 2022, it was affirmed for $40.3 million. And then let's see here. Yep. In February of this year, the United States District Court for the District of South Carolina approved a settlement requiring DuPont, Chemours, and Corteva to pay $1.185 billion to settle liability claims from public water systems as well. Then back in 2021, they also had a $4 billion settlement to resolve 95 pending cases.
Yeah, but that's like lawsuits, like you had said, manslaughter for Boeing. Like, why is there not something like that for a big organization? I recognize it's complicated because, like, usually if it's like a murder case, one person against another, you know who to indict. So it's more complicated, obviously. But why isn't there a system set in place to figure that out? Because clearly it was hurting people. Like, what we're just gonna say, oh, it's chill, just pay us some money. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
So the testing took like 7 years, just because as I go further down in the document, because I mean, in the article, obviously I couldn't include all this info or we'd be here forever. So as of October of 2016, 3,535 plaintiffs have filed personal injury lawsuits against DuPont. First member of this group to go to trial was kidney cancer survivor named Carla Bartlett. In October, Bartlett was awarded $1.6 million. So if we go down that paragraph, after that, DuPont may choose to settle with every afflicted class member using the outcome of the bellwether cases to determine settlement awards. Or DuPont can fight each suit individually, a tactic that tobacco companies have used to fight personal injury lawsuits. At the rate of 4 trials a year, DuPont would continue to fight PFOA cases until the year 2,890. So there are so many afflicted people too. And everybody is like, I mean, think about it. If you can't get your life back, your actual health and life back, what is the next greatest thing? Money to pay for your medical bills. So of course these people are going to fight it. They want some sort. I mean, it's like when someone gets murdered, when someone's family member gets murdered, a lot of times you will get a cash amount if you sue someone, and it's not going to bring your family member back, but it is going to pay for lawyers and all these different things. So basically it's them refusing to accept responsibility. And I think the way that they've been able to actually reach these people is personal injury suits.
Well, here's the other thing that I just quick checked. The current market cap for DuPont is still $32.84 billion. So after however many billions of dollars in lawsuits and settlements and stuff like that, their net worth is still 32 billion, basically $33 billion. So I mean, I'm totally with you, Grant, where it's like, yeah, of course it's incredibly complicated, but how do you prosecute? How do you prosecute a company? Because the problem with prosecution is you have to find out, well, who is liable? Where does the decision come from? Where does the criminal negligence actually come from? Who's the one who had the intent to do this, right? If we're talking about the FAA doing their charges on Boeing to criminally defraud the FFA, who's actually doing it, right? And I think when you are attacking a company, you know, it's hard because then it's like so multi-leveled. But at the same time, there needs to be something in place, because if you're a CEO of a company, you can commit manslaughter to the degree of hundreds of lives and then get a $62 million payout as a result. Like that for me was probably the thing that pissed me off the most, is that guy just got to he got to sit there and be like, we did everything we could. I swear to God, we did everything we could. And I was just following, and I just had all the information as it was coming to me. I didn't, hands off, right? And then he resigned and he got a payout and no consequences. If his consequences are getting to just retire.
But $62 million, that's more money than likely all 4 of us could see in our lifetime. I would like that not to be the case. But think about it. And we are not killing people with software.
I know, and it's like the lawsuits are great. Like if people are like you said, some of the people from DuPont,
Lawsuits are great.
they're great.
So
no,
down for
like
lawsuits.
for the people that were affected, like you said, one of the ladies got like $1 million something. Like that's great, but that feels like below bare minimum.
Oh yeah, it's chump change.
Like that, I'm not even talking about money. I want the person who's responsible in prison. I don't want this to happen again. That's what I'm like, that's great that you settled with me, but how is this not going to happen again?
There needs to be a precedent.
Yeah, right. But like there's a financial reason not to, but there isn't like actual someone behind bars so they can't do it again. That's what, and I don't really want to I don't mean to turn this into like a whole political thing, if that even is what this is.
It isn't. It's not political. I mean, like, because at the end of the day,
It isn't. It isn't.
Isn't-
It goes into how our politics and money shapes our world, but it shouldn't be political because it is literally human life on the line.
the thing is that yeah, we have lawsuits in place and these settlements in place because it's supposed to be a financial deterrent. Here's the thing. The reason it keeps happening is because it's not, because there's more money to be made in following these pursuits and risking the chance of a lawsuit like that than just playing it safe or whatever you want to call that, right? Or like, I don't know, actually, like, yeah, being safe, following the rules, making something that's not going to kill people, and disclosing and doing things right, because that's not what makes you billions and billions of dollars, right? What is a $4 billion settlement in the face of $32 billion? What's the actual, like, what is that's, I can't do quick maths, but let me just pull up my calculator quick. That is 12%.
Sorry if this is confusing. It's because I think this story is confusing, but also like it's so hard to summarize this information. But just so you guys know, there was obviously like the class action lawsuit that he went in to do. They decided to settle in 2004. Just to clarify what we were saying before, with like how did they get the money to pay back these people to test their blood? DuPont agreed to install filtration plants in the 6 affected water district if they wanted them, and pay a cash award of $70 million. Blah blah blah. They would do. It said it would fund a scientific study to determine whether there was a probable link. A term that delicately avoided any declaration of causation between PFOA and any diseases. But basically, Balak didn't stop. He was like, there's a gap in the data. And they took the money that they got, and that's what they used to pay the people to test their blood. So yes, it was that 70 million, I guess they said. Yeah, 70 million. And that's why, because there was a financial incentive, because I think people were afraid of the government. Yeah, I mean, think about like all the things people have been saying with COVID and the vaccine and all the things we see now. And this is like 20 years ago. And people are like, I don't trust the government. They're going to install a tracker in me. Like, this is what people have been saying for years. So they did need some sort of financial settlement, financial incentive to do this blood testing.
Mo, you've been looking like you wanted to say something for a little while.
Sorry, no, I actually did, but I realized that I had muted myself, and then I was like,
I
okay,
know. I
you
was
didn't
like,
hear
wait,
me.
I saw at one point you were muted, and I was like, is he actually muted? Or I saw you talking, and I was like, I don't hear him. So
I did mute myself for a second, and then I forgot to unmute it. I was gonna say that Boeing paid $2.5 billion in fines, and it's worth like over 100 billion. So that's like 2.5%. It's nothing. But also, like, you can prosecute companies like as a criminal for stuff like murder. And in that, at the end of the documentary, it did say that Boeing paid the 2.5 billion in fines to avoid criminal prosecution. So that's typically, like, basically they settle it out of court before it gets to that point. And like, if you pay a big enough number, you get away with it, but they can be prosecuted.
I want them to pay that number and get prosecuted.
yeah,
Exactly.
but think about it. People want to avoid being in court because it's bad public publicity for them. But at the same time, like, they have enough money to pay people off. And if you're on the other side of it, you don't know if this is ever going to end. And if you're someone who doesn't have a ton of money, which, like, I don't know any American, unless they're filthy rich, that has the money to continue prosecuting a billion-dollar company, billions and billions of dollars, until they win, which likely you will not.
Katie, it reminds me of 3:10 to Yuma, We just watched
310 to Yuma, which is
a
such a
classic
great movie.
Western movie.
Not
And
the one
it-
in 2007, the one in the 50s.
Yeah, the original 310 to Yuma, and in it there's a farmer who is like very down on his luck and his family, right? There's been a drought and his cows are, they're not drinking enough water. They're not drinking enough water. It's in Arizona. It's awful, right? So basically he goes into town to borrow some money and he accidentally gets roped into delivering a notorious criminal to Yuma to get on a train, or sorry, no, to a different town, contention to get on a train to Yuma where he'll be put into prison. And the entire time he's like sitting with this criminal. The criminal's like, how much are they paying you? I'll double it. I'll triple it. How does $5,000 sound? Well, because it's not going to be $5,000. It's going to be $10,000. And $10,000 in, 1950.
Yeah, but this is even earlier.
Sooner, even sooner, yeah, because it was set in like, the 10s, 20s, who knows? I don't remember exactly. But it seems to me it's this thing of like, what's your price? What is it? What is the offer you can't refuse? Your morals go out the window or whatever. Right? Or like what justice is. It's in the 1880s. Yeah. So $10,000 in the 1880s is a ton of money, right? What's your price?
According to Measuring Worth, $10,000 in 1880 has a relative worth of $316,000. Wait, when CJ's compensation, such as a salary, has a relative worth of $3 million today? That's confusing.
That is confusing.
A lot of money.
Around $300,000.
It's a lot of money, and it's just to let this guy walk free. So after a certain point with these poor families who have already been through so much, right? Losing a loved one, and then sitting in these lobbies, where not lobbies, but in the halls of Congress, watching this happen, and then waiting and waiting and waiting, going through this for years and years and years. How much can one little person take in the midst of a massive corporation, right? And that's where, I'm with you, Grant, where it's like, yeah, they should pay that and be prosecuted. There's this constant thing in America where like, yeah, you pay a fine and you can get off. That's essentially how a lot of things work in America, even down to just like a parking ticket. You can park wherever you want so long as you're willing to pay a parking ticket.
And it's like, to me, it just doesn't even make sense from a PR standpoint either. Like, I think, like, the way that this ended up, I'm more wary of Boeing as a company than I was previously. And I think if their approach was instead, no, let's find the people responsible. We'll pay the fine because that was us. But the people responsible should get prosecuted. So then they villainize the people that actually did it. And then they can maintain their own brand saying, we didn't like that. They're fired. They're in prison or whatever. We're moving on. We want to do something better. I will trust them way more if they do something like that than if they just go, here's $2 billion. Don't talk about it ever again.
But check the plane that you were on when you went to LA 2 months ago.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I checked and it was
on a
Boeing.
Yeah, me too.
Every plane. Maybe not every, for sake of actual.
But also it's like, can you blame the individuals or do you blame the system within which the thing occurred? That like even if you prosecute those individuals and you get rid of them, I genuinely think this still would have happened, and that like the incentives and culture at that company would still have incentivized somebody else to do the same thing. And even if they didn't acquire that McDonnell-Douglas company, I feel like, just because of capitalism, 20 years later, like now, compared to the acquisition, they still might have had the same problem happen just because of the economic incentives.
I mean, we still need planes. There's a reason why, like I said, we're flying on Boeing planes. They make the planes. We're always flying on 737s. Maybe not Maxes. I was freaking out. I was like, what was the Alaskan airline flight that happened recently? What was that about? There was where the door like fell off or something.
Oh, yeah. I did write this down.
Yeah, that was in Portland, actually.
Yeah, it was Portland to Ontario.
So an emergency exit door ejected from Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, causing uncontrolled decompression.
Max 9, baby. It's a Max 9.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The plane was scheduled for a safety check after some engineers and technicians became concerned, including about a light indicating problems with the plane's pressurization system and that it was kept in service with some restrictions.
Perfect for me to go down my tangent now. So
Yeah.
this year, Boeing has become a popular topic again because of that, which happened in January. And then a few months later in March, whistleblower John Barnett, who was in the documentary, he worked in quality control at Boeing for 32 years, 7 as a manager, and he, made a complaint eventually after all the whistleblowing, alleging that Boeing undermined his career because he raised safety concerns. And while he was going through this whole legal process, in March 2024, after he failed to report for his 3rd day of deposition, he was found dead of a gunshot wound. A conspiracy theory that Boeing had assassinated him spread among the public. Video surveillance showed that it was suicide by firearm caused by a period of serious personal distress related to his participation in the whole case. He had his legally owned pistol in his hand with his finger still on the trigger, and he left a suicide note in the passenger seat on which he wrote, "I can't do this any longer, and I pray Boeing pays." And this woman who identified herself as a friend of his said that he told her, "If anything happens to me, it's not suicide." She said that they made his death look like a suicide.
100%, I think.
2 months later, another one, Joshua Dean, in May 2024. This conspiracy blew up again because this guy was another aviation whistleblower, also represented by the same attorney as the other guy. He died, and this time it was from experiencing difficulty breathing from contracting some infection. Yeah. And he died 2 weeks later, and him and other workers at the factory testified that they had been instructed to downplay or hide production defects on the 737 MAX, which had a door plug blow off, like we said earlier. And the deaths of both of these people prompted 10 more new whistleblowers from Boeing and Spirit to come forward with similar allegations. So I'm curious to see where this goes and if more deaths pop up, because this is 2 deaths at this point, and it was after 2 crashes that the whole story about Boeing had come up. So this is weird stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of Navalny.
Clarification. Did you say that they had surveillance images of him?
Yeah, so he died outside of a hotel in his car, and so I think they might have that footage. So it doesn't seem like an assassination based on the evidence.
So do we have access to that video surveillance? Who when you say they have, do we know who they are?
The hotel and law enforcement.
And as for the other one, I just started looking up what are the symptoms of ricin poisoning?
Yeah, it's interesting because if there's one death, it's okay, that's weird for sure. But I mean, it could be a fluke. But then a second one and it's poisoning. It's okay, this doesn't just happen. Especially when it's linked to one thing.
This is where it gets really, really. There's a great, was it Veritasium or maybe it was Vsauce that just looks into correlation. There's really crazy. You can find crazy correlations in anything. I always get very testy about. There are very few conspiracy theories that I believe in. There's one that I really believe in that I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's true. What if JFK's head just did that?
Dude, what if it did?
What if it literally just did that?
It just did that.
What if RFK Jr.'s brain worm just did
What if
that?
What if it was the brain worm? What if
Brainworm.
JFK had a brain worm and it just was it's my time.
But the whole Kennedy family is sus. So to me, there's so much going on in that family. It is sus.
Yeah, this is the second Kennedy conversation we've had on this podcast.
Yeah, my mom is obsessed with the Kennedys, so it makes sense. But it reminds me of Navalny. It reminds me of Epstein. There are so many things where we don't know if they killed themselves or someone else did it. It even alludes to the part in Oppenheimer when Florence Pugh's character ends up dead. Spoiler, sorry. You should probably see it by now. And they show a person's hand. So they're alluding that she was killed.
But I'm always like, I'm testy about conspiracy theories, because like, yes, it can be really easy. And as said earlier, like people look for controversy, people look for this kind of stuff. And it's like, what a juicy thing, right? Would that be? And how crazy and how awful, like it continues down this line of like Boeing doing awful things, and also just like corporate conspiracies about America in general, and how the rich and powerful will do anything to stay there. So I'm always just kind of like, I'm always a little testy on it.
I love them. I think
I mean,
it's
like, yeah, who
amazing.
doesn't? There's a part of me that absolutely loves to like go down that and be like, yeah, dude, that's crazy. Like, there's a whole lot of reasons. Like, and like, also, I think people are looking for a revelation in that way. But you know, the more that I think about it, it's like it could just be coincidence in essence, where he did. I mean, MRSA is very easily contracted in hospitals, unfortunately, and he literally, I mean, like, it could have just happened that he truly was like worn down over years and years and years and years of going through this. I mean, who knows who was personally attacking him outside of it, because there are crazy people. You know, there are crazy bootlicking people who will be like, no, the corporations do nothing wrong and you're the person who should die. It's like, I can't imagine what he was going through over all of these years.
Yeah, see the prosecutions that, like, I don't know if you guys heard about The Last of Us 2, but the actress who played a very controversial character in The Last of Us 2 got death threats, and she was just an actor.
And all she was doing was her job.
It's very common. You would be surprised at how many people get death threats.
It's, yeah.
So I think all agree that we did not necessarily feel like justice was served with any of the cases that we've discussed so far. I have one more topic to bring up with you guys, which is microplastics.
Oh, yeah.
Chemtrails!
I can feel them inside of me.
So earlier this year, they found that microplastics were found in every human placenta tested in study. They also found that every source of protein, including plant-based sources of protein, had microplastics. Next, microplastics are linked to heart attack, stroke, and death. And most recently, I think this is from yesterday, we're finding microplastics in testes, including human and dog testes. It's like a really big deal at this point, and it feels not only like we're but that we don't have someone to blame. There's no one specific company that's responsible for this, right? It's like the entirety of the economy trying to murder us. Who do we even sue?
Ghostbusters. Well, I actually, going back to my, not like for a full tangent, but going back to my point, I think at the end of Dark Waters, and I'm going to check on Netflix, they say that every human in the United States, I think, has PFOA in their body. But I'm going to check that real quick.
I would not be surprised. You know, like this is it again. Yeah, this documentary, what you're saying, Mo, just kind of brings us to where we are today, confronting the steps that we have taken to where we are. And you know what's so crazy is that I'm still seeing propaganda for oil, like on TV. Like, well, Katie and I are just like watching Under the Bridge right now, and we'll occasionally get commercials, or like maybe we're watching RuPaul's Drag Race and there's like commercials. Let me just finish my thought. And there's this one commercial that comes on, and it's like, without oil, we wouldn't have all of these beautiful things. And it's like, why am I getting literal propaganda for oil and this thing that's happening to us?
Yeah, what is this, the fucking Lorax?
Right? Plastic comes from oil, if you didn't know, right? It's a byproduct from oil. And it's going to be the death of us, right? And yet, there are people who don't want to realize that as a truth. They still support, you know, these corporations that are pushing for oil and all of these things. And I'm directly getting it. Like, that's the thing for me. It's like, yeah, who is to blame? We're all to blame, because they're still running the ads. They're still making the ads. Peppa Pig is to blame.
Because you see how my camera focused in on her?
Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig. Get the tar and feathers.
It accidentally focused on her.
much.
No, she's not
Yeah.
to blame.
But that's like
Mo,
you know,
did they say that there's microplastics in pork? I don't think it said pork.
I would assume that if it's in all protein,
Might be in tofu, but it's not in her.
yeah, maybe pigs are just like too good at digesting things, so they're like, nope, no plastic in pigs.
Womp womp
Oh,
Womp.
never mind.
Also, is this linkage, is it correlational relationship?
Like the health ones or the other ones?
So like how it said that microplastics are linked to stroke and other fun
Yeah.
things.
Those are usually correlation, but all the
Okay.
other ones are true.
Okay.
Okay,
Like,
correlation.
so-
I mean, like, yeah.
In the movie, it says at the end, PFOA is believed to be in the blood of virtually every living creature on the planet. And funny enough, when I was watching this movie, I was on a Boeing plane.
No
Whoa.
way.
Yeah, I was coming back from LA.
Were you drinking water out of a plastic bottle?
I think I was.
Because it's really easy to go doom and gloom. One thing I want to say, just for the sake of the scientific community, correlation doesn't equal causation. So it could very well be that's not what it is. So I don't think we should go, microplastic is killing us. It could be, but it also could not be. So
PFOA is killing us.
What I'm getting at is like it's still we are still actively pushing for and perpetuating these things that we know are harmful for us. Like even if it's not microplastic in our bloodstream that's actually killing us, the production of plastic is bad, just like fundamentally bad on so many different levels. So the fact that it's still being pushed and I'm getting propaganda on my television screen, it's like, well, who do we blame there? Well, I think that the companies themselves who are producing the plastic and the oil should be held accountable. I think the news, not the news, but the networks that are allowing these ads to be run are accountable, right? Then where does the buck stop, right? Are the actors in these commercials, should they be held accountable because they're doing something for a paycheck that is, morally that I'm against personally, but we know is like a harmful thing? Like actors, like let's say somebody is like, can cigarette companies still run ads? Like that's a question I actually don't know off the top of my head, but an actor in a cigarette ad, right? We know that cigarettes are terrible for us, but that we still run those kinds of things, I guess, because it doesn't directly damage the environment in the same way that oil production does. But I digress there. Yeah, it's like, how do you even begin to like map out accountability for something that's so multi-level?
I don't know. This all like maybe this will be a future episode, but this isn't something that I put in our list of documentaries to watch. But there's Citizen 7, the documentary about Edward Snowden. Kind of reminds me similarly of you're muted, Katie.
So down for
It's
WikiLeaks.
It's really interesting.
Citizen 4.
Yeah, Citizen 4, thank you. That documentary reminds me of what Boeing is doing as well. It's this cover up of what they did do, and they're trying not to take responsibility and all that. Terrifying stuff.
Well, see that right there, that statement, Grant, is where my conspiracy brain goes like, yeah, because there's a part of me that's like, well, what's the incentive for Boeing to do that with all of the scrutiny that they've been under? Why would they go out and actively kill these whistleblowers? And it's like, well, what if the criminal negligence goes way, way deeper and there's even more potentially for them to lose?
Yeah, right.
That's my conspiracy. It's like, oh, but yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah, there could be more. Apparently.
I just had to say, because Chris goes, it's the news. The news is running these things, but
I don't watch the news because I'm a kid and apparently every time
that's it. That's all I had to say.
Oh, that's
I don't
me?
watch the news.
That's-
I'm a kid.
I don't watch the news, and apparently.
And apparently, I don't watch the news because I'm a kid. And apparently,
Grant, I have an idea to solve the correlation thing. What if we got triplets and one of them...
Oh, continue.
Yeah, please. No, I'm really interested to know. Yeah, I'm
and
obsessed
we
with
went
twins.
to Chiro and we were like, let's test your fish and see if they have microplastics and then feed them to the triplets in first class on a Boeing flight on a MAX 9. and make sure that they cook the fish, not have them raw, on a pan with Teflon.
Everyone should be using cast iron skillets. Let's be honest here.
I use
Or a nonstick that
enameled.
doesn't have.
Yeah, I use anodized aluminum is what I use for my nonstick, and then I have enameled cast iron, and then regular stainless steel.
Apparently anodized.
I love, speaking of cast iron, and now going a little off topic. I don't know where I heard this, but it just makes me think of like, because there's a stereotype that some young men don't really like to wash their sheets very often, and somebody once said it's like,
You
yeah,
were all
boys,
sheet washers, I can tell. But
some boys.
Sounds like a negative thing. Thank you.
The quote is,
instead
"Some
of the
boys out
night
here-"
walkers, the sheet washers.
Oh my god! But some of these boys out here are really treating their beds like cast iron skillets.
Ugh.
Mm.
Ugh.
That's
You gotta-
flavor.
You gotta marinate in that. And
Mhm.
yeah, don't. There's like a really, what's it called? Oh, I forgot the term. When you treat a cast iron, season. There's a good season in it.
Mhm, mhm.
You know
There's a
what
good
it makes
season
me
in it.
think of? It's like when you watch a period movie and it looks very period, and you're like, that set probably smells crazy. When you see like they make something, like we were watching Shogun, and that first episode where like all of the people are like, we haven't showered in 3 months because we've been on this ship, and you're like, can you imagine? I mean, they probably smell okay because it's a movie set, but in real life you'd be like,
No, back in the day,
Back in the day.
All right, last quick tangent is one that I have about the term identification. Let me pull up some data for you guys. This should be fun.
apparently widowy.
What are we hitting the gwitty?
Oh, wow, that's good.
Widowy.
it's not a lot of
Hitting the
money.
green.
It's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money. And what I should start saying is, it's a lot of money.
So, this word was relatively non-existent until this point here in like end of 2022, beginning 2023. There's this writer, Cory Doctorow. He does like sci-fi and also some other stuff, but he's also like a political commentator type thing. And he started talking about this term shitification to describe what a lot of companies are doing right now, and also like what our economy is like as a whole. And basically it is the gradual degradation of a product's functionality as part of a cycle in which the product basically at the beginning does a very good job to attract users, and then over time pursues more and more profits at the expense of users, cutting costs and corners along the way, leading to a shittier product. So basically, like, once they're so successful that they know you will not leave no matter what, they pull the rug and treat you like shit. You've seen this with Uber, you've seen this with video games, streaming services with ads and raising their prices and shittier content, and social media platforms, YouTube, Google search being filled up with ads, Reddit going down the shitter, and everything else. And I'm curious if you guys are seeing this in any other industries that maybe I haven't named, because I feel like it's happening everywhere and everyone's talking about this. But like, oh my God, everything is just much worse than things were like 5 years ago.
I feel like it's like, what isn't going down the drain?
I'd say that for me personally, what I've recognized is I've seen it with Apple a little bit, because Apple is doing so many cool things with their own silicon, but at the same time, they're still charging like hundreds of dollars for a little more storage. Like that's one thing for me. Like SSD storage is not that expensive anymore. It's not. And like, you want to get a new MacBook, but you want more than like 256 gigabytes of storage. Sorry, you're gonna have to pay like $500 more if you want like a terabyte. I'm really sorry about that, but it's just what we have to do.
It's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money.
It's a
just
lot of
like-
money.
Like that's like a really good example for me of but like at the same time not, because they are doing crazy cool things with like their power consumption, and their the M4 is looking like it's going to be like an incredibly powerful chip. But like, my God, at what cost? I think maybe TV technology is probably the one for me that I'm like the most annoyed about because it seems like you can't just get a nice TV anymore. You know what I mean? Like if I want a 4K TV, it's going to be a smart TV.
It has to be.
And it has to be a smart TV, which means that it has to be connected to the internet, and there's no way to get around that. And then to use it, you have to navigate. If you don't do a bunch of research beforehand, you have to navigate a terrible OS, and like that can die really quickly because it's a computer, right? And it's like a computer running off of like a phone chip or something like that. And then sometimes the actual picture quality isn't that good because it's more focused on the smart features than it is the actual panel technology. It's the most frustrating thing. We've got a pretty decent 4K TV because I did my research, but it still has weird things. Like I hate all that weird smoothing thing that they do to try to, true motion. It's like a frame interpolation to try to get things that are not 60p up to 60p or higher or whatever. It's really like just stuff like that. Why can't I just go get a nice 4K television where all it is inputs and a screen output? Why? Why does it have to be a terrible smart TV from Vizio? Even companies that didn't used to do it, that are good branded companies, are now doing it. Vizio, Panasonic, TCL, right? All of these things. I just want a panel because I have a Chromecast and I have, I've got my PS4, which acts as my Blu-ray player, right? Like I still use this. Why do I have to go this smart route that's going to suck in 5 years because it's going to be almost impossible to use because the onboard chip is going to die? It's like, and if anything happens to the onboard computer, it's actually unusable. So that's one for me. Oh, and this is more shrinkflation than enshittification, but Nature Valley bars are not what they used to be.
Damn.
I love the like creamy Nature Valley bars. I don't know what to call them. They
like, just have like icingy things at the bottom.
There's like a little
it's
like
just
ice
not
cream,
the shit
not
where
ice
it
cream,
just
but,
like breaks.
It's not the crumbly one. It's like the soft, chewy ones.
Okay. Yeah.
And it comes in like cashew, almond, all these other ones. But the cashew and almond ones are so good. Cashew in particular. I'm a cashew stan.
How do you guys say cashews?
Cashew.
Chris
Cashew.
kind of says cashew a little bit.
Cashew? When have I ever said cashew? We'll run it back. We'll see it. Did I say cashew? The cashew.
No, you say it different. I say cashews and you say cashew.
It's probably like a little bit of my Midwestern
It's a
accent coming in.
cashew.
Cashew. I
Maybe
don't know.
not
Anyway,
cashews.
you're getting me off topic. They've been getting smaller. They're the same price, but they're the packages, and the package is the same size, but you can literally bend over the end of the packaging and see that it's decreased in size.
I wonder if you can see the caloric difference.
That's a good question.
I mean, unless you had like an older.
You'd have to have an older one.
I have something that has not been enshittified. It's just shit. And Chris and I talk about it all the time.
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Fucking printers.
What's up with printers?
Why do printers all suck? And why are they never good?
We have put a man on the moon, and we are figuring out AI technology, and like cameras have never been better, and all this stuff, but yet.
Actually, was it my dad or my mom that said this? Because we always, at my parents' house, we used to have a really printer, and then we bought another printer, but like all printers are like, let's just put it on a button or a sticker. All printers are like, no one has made a good printer where I'm like, holy fuck, like this printer could just do anything. I just think they're trash.
Like it's always a question of like, okay, is it going to work this time? Like when I go to print, or is it going to be like printer is offline or whatever? I once had to literally figure out how to like register the MAC address of my printer back in the day because I was like, why isn't it working? And I had to open like a certain port or something. It was just such a process. Why?
Well, the thing is, in my family's house, it was like the computer was upstairs, the printer was on the bottom, in the basement. So it's like if you wanted to get something printed, you would send it to the printer, you go downstairs. If it's not working, then you have to go back up to the computer, etc. But we used to have this really printer. And I don't know, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My mom or dad said this, but that I once said, and I forgot I said this. I was like, wow, I went through puberty faster than this printer could print out something. Like truly, it would be like, I was like, wow, I could go through all cycles. I was a teenager and I was like, wow, like I'll go through puberty and this shit will still not fucking work.
Yeah, I'm gonna have chest hair before this printer finishes printing. What about you, Mo? Have you noticed anything in particular that it has been inshified?
Let's see. I did get a printer recently, and I have noticed the thing that you said, which definitely sucks. And I feel like it's part of their plan to just because they make their money on the ink, right? So I figure if
Yeah,
they
but it's like, can we make a decent one? Like, it
Well, that's
doesn't
what I'm
have to be
saying. It's like, what's the
great.
incentive then? Because like, if
Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
able to print more often, if the printer's gonna, if I know the printer's gonna work, I'm gonna use it more often, which means I'm gonna go through more ink, which means I'll go out and buy more ink. So theoretically, the price model works. Why do they suck?
Yeah.
Why do they
Suck,
just suck, dude?
I don't know if you guys experienced this while at university, but like the whole printing situation, we needed to print out things was always a fun thing at NYU. Like we had to download like a printer. What is the fucking thing called? It was like this
App driver.
driver. It would be a printer driver, and you had to like we had to download 2 different printer drivers so you could print on campus from your laptop. Yeah, and there was like you had to download one for like black and white and one for color printers, and like if the printer was never working in any of the buildings, you have to leave like 30 minutes early for class, and then it's like, well, you had time to print this thing. And it's like, well, none of the printers work. It was just always a thing.
I will also say that like one of the reasons it often happens is because a company gets bought out by another company, and then they will cut costs. And this might sound familiar to some of you.
Mm-hmm.
And we are probably expecting some products associated with objects in my background. And like that's happening everywhere, including like, for example, let's look at games media. I think today IGN bought like 10 of the big games media companies, including one that I love called Eurogamer.
Eurogamer's
IGN
amazing.
did?
IGN just bought Eurogamer, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And Eurogamer is like home to the YouTube channel Digital Foundry, which is like an amazing channel.
They're
for
fantastic.
Yeah.
gaming tech. And like, does this mean that their products are now gonna become like race to the bottom content? Like, I can't imagine that. That's like completely the opposite of what those guys stand for. It's ridiculous.
But I think, yeah, the video game industry is probably the biggest thing of this, where, you know, we used to get a complete game. And there's a certain argument here of like, yeah, well, a lot of older games did still have bugs inside of them, but not to the degree that we're seeing with newer games. And like the amount of patches and the amount of money that's still being charged, and then also all of the microtransactions. It's like we took this thing and, yeah, we've really distilled it down to how can we get the most money out of it, you know? I think I'm trying to think of a good example. I think Halo. Actually, no, I know my example. The Halo series was my childhood. Like, I grew up on Halo, so I'm also a bit nostalgia driven with this statement. But I think it's true. I think it holds true. Where the first 3 Halo games are it's probably the greatest. Like, it could literally be the greatest trilogy in all of gaming, in my opinion. You've got this fantastic space opera. You've got an incredible score. You've got gameplay that literally revolutionized online play, right? They did so many groundbreaking things with those games. And then they were purchased. Halo Reach was okay, but then Halo 4 was garbage. And it really, Halo Reach was the entryway into microtransaction and like unfinished content and stuff like that. And then from there on out, it's just been like terrible. Just like I was so excited for Halo Infinite because everyone said that it's a spiritual successor to the Halo series. Like, it's gonna be like old Halo was, and I played it and it wasn't. It was not good. There was no the actual level design and everything. There was no variance. It was the same kind of gameplay across the board. It was like I was playing Halo 3, but it was Far Cry. Is essentially what it was.
It's kind of like Sims,
But, like,
Sims 3
and,
was
like,
amazing, and Sims 4 is like good, but like not as great as Sims 3 was.
Yeah, but like it's and Far Cry does their own thing where they at least have some variance in the level design.
Mm-hmm.
Halo Infinite didn't. It was just the same thing over and over and over. So yeah, that's mine, where it was just slowly but surely distilled into shit.
Yep. Oh my god, that's incredible.
That's actually pretty
Holy
impressive.
crap.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I thought I showed you guys this already.
Well, the fidget spinner, yeah, but not the balancing act. Yeah, okay, so let's do the green room.
I can go in hot. I'm ready.
Go in.
I'm ready.
Go in hot, Grant.
Timmy Turner's back in Fairly Odd Parents. This is breaking news. Breaking news, everyone.
Wait, did that come out today, literally?
No, but it's important. Timmy Turner is old.
Oh God.
No.
He's old and he looks bad. And if you remember the show, if you grew up with the show like I did, you know that there are two versions of Timmy Turner. One of them where the good ending, where he's like buff and like married to somebody, I don't know. And then the other one where he sucks and he has a bad life. And this is the bad life version. What happened? We need to know.
There's nothing wrong with being a bus driver. He just looks creepy.
All I know is this is not my Timmy Turner. This is not my Fairly Odd Parents.
Not my Timmy Turner.
Not my
That's
Timmy
so
Turner.
funny.
Yeah, we got a brand new Fairly Odd Parents coming in.
I also
know this
don't
is...
like the animation. It's a little too fluorescent.
I kind of dig it, honestly. It kind of is like I don't know. I recommend watching the trailer. It's pretty cool. But
Why do you
it
play
almost
it?
looks like stop motion-y. Yeah, play a little bit.
I will
Just a little
bit. I'll play it silently so we can talk. But it looks pretty nice. I actually kind of like how it looks.
Yeah,
I like the lighting. I like
Yeah.
the lighting. Oh, the hair has really good texture in animation. That's cool.
It's kind of giving Amazing World of Gumball.
It is.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
I hope, because what I love about that show is like the mixed media aspect of it, where they have like multiple different forms of animation in essence.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
it's a lot more 3D, less flat.
Yes,
I
exactly.
like it.
Yeah,
Actually, I
right?
like it a
Isn't it
lot.
cool? Anyway, I know this is really important information for people that like documentaries. But I thought this is really important news that we're getting a brand new Fairly Odd Parents, and it actually doesn't look bad. That's the surprise.
Maybe this will be because like I felt that Blade Runner 2049 is like how you do a reboot prequel. You know, because we entered in the world of like reboots, prequels, whatever, where they take a series and it's now, you know, trying to just like nostalgia trip people. And a lot of them are really bad. But Blade Runner 2049, also because it's Denis Villeneuve, is like how you do it. Like literally pays so much homage to the original movie with its noir aspect and all of the music and using miniatures. I think the fact that he used miniatures is insane and so cool. So maybe this will be like the reboot for reboots, but for like animated series and stuff like that. And who
Fairly
knows?
Odd Parents, directed by Denis Villeneuve.
That's what I want to see.
I would love to see that.
That is actually so incredible.
I want some weird like Nickelodeon to hire auteurs and just give them a blank check with one of their IPs and just see what they do.
Yeah. Or you could ask Midjourney to do this.
I have a little green room topic to jump in on, because I said we were saying like skibbity, Riz, all that stuff. I don't truly know what that means.
Were you saying or mocking? Because I was mocking.
Well, mocking, of course.
No, you say it.
Yeah,
Real.
I feel it. I feel the skibbity.
I feel the
Feel in your
skibbity.
bones.
I don't know what skibbity is. So that's what I was. So I know these words. I don't know what they actually mean, but I was talking to somebody recently and he was like, because I was like joking around with him and I was just saying skibbity and Riz and stuff like that. So he's like, so you're terminally online like me. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. I don't spend every single waking moment on the internet. He's like, but you're saying, I'm like, yeah, I say it because I generally know it. And it made me realize like, yeah, no, I'm not terminally online. I'm just internet pilled. You know, there's a difference. I'm internet pilled. Like I know these things. And so I have a litmus test to check and see if somebody is terminally online, like brain rot, or if they're just internet pilled. So the first one.
Is this like an Are You Old quiz?
Yeah, kind of. Not really. I'm just going to.
The first one is, what is your birthday?
Yeah, the first one is, what's your mother's maiden name?
It's like a buzzqueed.
Buzzqueef?
What is this?
Buzzqueef?
Oh, I know what that is.
BuzzFeed
Okay, don't
quiz.
say it. But if you know what it is, don't
I know
say
what
it.
it is.
I don't know
Mo?
what it is, or I did.
Mo, do you know what this is?
I have no idea. No.
Okay, so Katie and Mo, as far as this is my litmus test. You're not internet pilled because you don't know what this means. Grant, what is this?
Is this loss?
This is loss.
Wow.
It's loss.
It's loss.
And if you don't know what that means, unfortunately, you're not internet pilled. You're just a normie. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, it takes a long time to get it.
or you're just in like a different portion of the internet. You know, it's just like a long running inside joke where like if you've been on the internet for as long as I have.
Oh no, you made Mo sad.
You made Mo rain.
Oh, but it's just like it's a long running gag where if you've been on the internet long enough, right, you know what it is. It's based off of this webcomic that was like a completely out of the blue, like it was a comedy webcomic, and the guy himself is actually pretty terrible. But it's a comedy webcomic that the readers were like, it's like too funny all the time. It should be more serious. And so he just randomly dropped this 4-panel comic, no words, out of the blue, no context, where one of the characters inside of his comic has a miscarriage. It's implied that this woman has a miscarriage. And so the first panel, maybe I should just pull it up. Just pull up Lost.
Can I just say what skibbity means? A parent's guide to skibbity on Mashable. Skibbity is an onomatopoeia derived from the lyrics of Give It To Me by Timbaland. When sped up, the chorus lyrics, so give it to me, sound like skibbity. A mashup of Give It To Me and the song Dom Dom Yes Yes by Bizzer or Bizer King is the anthem of the skibbity toilets and is used throughout this series. While skibbity originally had no inherent meaning, it has since evolved into a slang term used among children's and teens, meaning either bad or cool. Yeah, whoops, children's. Children's or teens, meaning either bad or cool, depending on context. Whatever that was.
Am I the only Gen Z here? Let me phrase it like that.
No, I'm Gen Z,
I'm a
technically.
cusper. I'm technically a millennial for all intents and purposes.
Yikes.
I'm a Gen Zer.
This is the first time that learning something has made me feel stupider.
Yeah. That's the first time, though. I feel like all of the, like, these things, the skibbity and the Riz, and that makes me feel stupid.
I will say it is really funny watching you guys trying to wrap your brains around new internet memes.
So hold on.
I'm like
It's really
3
funny.
years older than you.
I know. And I know what skibbity is.
Just for context, this is Loss. This is the
zooming in, baby.
Yeah.
it's as far as I can really zoom in. It's like
Damn.
terrible quality.
Wow, you just zoomed it in further.
No,
so.
I really can't zoom it in any further.
Oh my god.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, I zoomed it in. But this is Lost, and so basically, it's as it shows 4 panels. No words, no text, no nothing, but it's a character walking into the emergency room. He goes up to the desk where she's pointing, and then he's talking to a doctor, and then there's a girl lying down horizontally in a bed because she's apparently had a miscarriage, but there's literally no context for that. And that has very slowly, very, very slowly devolved into this.
What do you mean it slowly what the fuck
It
does
did.
that
It's
mean?
Very
just,
slowly.
through osmosis, entropy, whatever you want to call it. It's just very, very over
So
time. It's
someone
just,
just like,
Position.
okay.
yeah, it's just, no, this is just what it's become is
Yeah.
when
We
you
did
see.
an archaeological dig on the comic.
Exactly. So that's the litmus test. If you recognize that, you are internet pilled. Now, this is the one where if you can recognize this, if you can get this, then you're terminally online. Ready? 1 second.
Is this going to call me out?
Well, now I know that the bottom right is skibbity toilet.
Oh my
Yeah.
fucking God. This is amazing.
Wait, so what is... I also just saw something that said Skibbity Ohio toilet. What is Ohio?
Ohio's a state, Katie.
No,
Ohio is a state.
I know. So there's this, I feel like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know the full context. So I'm not terminally online. I've just seen stupid videos of like this guy in a Yeti costume falling down a mountain. And it's like, things are really going down in Ohio. Or like, God, can't even take a walk in Ohio. Just Ohio's a crazy place.
Yeah, that's basically it. There's always like, this was big on TikTok like about a year ago. They would say like only in Ohio, like anytime something weird was happening and stuff like that. So yeah, Ohio's basically like if anything weird, it's kind of like a Florida, like that kind of thing.
Oh,
where
sure,
you're
like Florida Man. Okay,
Yeah.
Sort
yeah,
of, yeah.
It's this generation's Florida Man, except it's
Yeah.
the entire
Kind
state
of,
of
but
Ohio.
like it's like Ohio. I think the vibe is that Ohio, nothing happens in Ohio. So like random, it's like, oh yeah, Ohio, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just otherwise. I don't know if anybody aside from myself and Katie technically have driven through Ohio. It's flat. It's just like, it's like corn, 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 corn. Look, a tree. Corn, 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 corn. What's that smell? Corn, corn, corn. Shout out to my sister for making up that little jingle. Shout out Lydia Stevenson.
For the litmus test, I don't know if I'm technically fully chronically online, but I get most of this because we got Gat and Riz, we got Mewing, we got Skibbity Toilet, we got
So
Phantom Tax.
if you don't get
Mewing.
all of it, you're correct. You're chronically online, but you're not terminally online, because terminally implies brain rot, right? Your brain is rotting. If you get every single thing on this image, then you are officially like you're done. You're done. So yeah, that's my little green room thing. This is my litmus test. I don't understand. I understand like mewing pretty well. If I didn't have Katie explain to me what Skibbity Toilet was, I wouldn't recognize, like, I know it's Gmod. Like, I recognize like the Gmod looking face in the toilet, but I would not have known that to be Skibbity Toilet.
Mo, got any fun green room topics?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have heard about the ScarJo controversy, but I will play.
Oh, that like she thinks her voice is being replicated or something.
Oh, Scarlett Johansson. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Let me know if this sounds like her to you.
That's a fair question. Linear equations pop up in a lot of everyday situations, even if we don't realize it. For example, calculating expenses, planning travel, cooking, and even in business for profit and loss calculations. It's basically a way to solve problems where you need to find an unknown value.
Only
Here's
a
my
little
opinion.
bit.
Here's my opinion. It doesn't sound like her, but because of the movie Her, it does sound like her. Because her cadence, this OpenAI cadence, is very similar to how Scarlett Johansson did Her.
Objection.
Okay.
What do I call you? Do you have a name?
Yes. Samantha.
Leia, where'd you get that name from?
I gave it to myself, actually.
How come?
Because I like the sound of it. Samantha.
Okay. You know what?
I still think it's like it's very like upbeat, little flirtatious, kind of vibe.
Yeah, I can see like the direction is similar, but like that's not something that ScarJo owns. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not. No. It doesn't sound like her voice at all.
The first like few notes of the voice, I was like, yeah, and then I was like, no. I can hear it in the beginning, but I think she has a raspiness that is not communicated in the AI at all. And actually, I saw her maybe in 2016 or 2017. I loved it. And I think now that we know so much about AI, I feel like it sounds way too human to be like some machine voice. Like, I'm like, oh, they should have added, or they should have directed her to be way more sort of computerized.
Oh, you mean in her?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
movie.
in the
Got it.
movie.
Got it.
I
Got
think
it. Got it.
it almost should have. Chris and I saw this show, A Murder at the End of the World, and there's this character in it who is like sort of the personal assistant, this like basically
super AI,
yeah. And like his voice, it's human, but it's like you can tell it's like an AI
Synthesized as opposed
Yeah.
to spoken. Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree, Mo. I don't think that's her voice at all. I don't really think that she has a leg to stand on. I think I saw that she's trying to sue them.
Yeah. The context is that basically they had first reached out to her and she said no. And then they released this voice model that a lot of people thought sounded like her. And then they reached out to her once more and she still said no. And then this was like the latest launch about a week ago. And right before it, the CEO of OpenAI tweeted Her, like the movie, because like they were going to introduce, because this like super personable voice wasn't there before. Like, so it was kind of like a new direction that was a lot more her-like what Grant said. And so ScarJo posted about it, saying like what that whole story, and then OpenAI issued a statement saying that actually they paid an actress to do the voice for this, and it was not ScarJo, and they don't want to reveal who it is to protect their identity, but a lot of people are saying, oh, they basically hired someone that sounds like ScarJo to imitate her because they couldn't get her.
I see that with the context of the story. I think knowing that they reached out to her twice and this comes out, there I kind of see it. I don't think with that context, it makes me feel a little bit more like, okay, I see what she's talking about.
It doesn't sound enough like her though. Like that's the thing is like if they were reaching out, if they're like, well, we want Scarlett Johansson's voice, so we're gonna hire an impersonator. They didn't do a good job impersonating her. It just sounds like an upbeat woman's voice.
I don't think it's impersonation. I think it's an attempt to have the quality of, but not the exact.
Well, they were trying to have it be like her, you know, the movie rather than Scarlett Johansson, the person. And then that's a few more layers removed from just like trying to copy somebody's voice. It'd be so different if it was like, I don't know, like McDonald's using an AI model of Scarlett Johansson's voice to sell burgers. Like that's completely different.
And like I didn't even know that ScarJo was attempting to sue, but like personally, when I first heard the voice, I was like, oh, it's like the movie Her. And like I totally get why people are like, wow, this is very similar. Not that it's the same voice, but it just feels like the same kind of approach towards an AI assistant, which is to me not worthy of suing over, but it is really uncanny and kind of scary.
So she hasn't actually, just a quick clarification, she hasn't actually sued. It's just a legal threat, or there's like an option there to sue. But apparently Sam Altman has apologized to her. But I just don't. This is one of those things where there's been a ton of cases in recent memory where people are being sued for not what's the word I'm looking for here? With songs where one song is like very similar to another song. Why can't I think of the word? Plagiarism. But like for songs, there's like a different whatever. But like accused of plagiarizing or like copying somebody's song, and sometimes it's like very apparent. But then other times it's like you don't own the 4-chord structure. Like you don't own a bass line because there's a guy on YouTube whose name immediately escapes me. I think his name is Sam. He's a music YouTuber, but he's brilliant. He's a great guy, and he broke it down. He just showed all of these instances in which like classical music used the same kind of like bass line walking point, and it's just. You know, people can get a little bit ridiculous when it comes to these things because to my ear, and I think any reasonable person would look at that and be like, that doesn't sound like Scarlett Johansson at all.
Yeah.
At all. It just sounds like a woman. It just sounds like
I
a
agree.
woman.
And some of the comments suggest that it actually sounds more like Rashida Jones, which is interesting.
Can you play a clip of Rashida? I actually don't know Rashida Jones.
You look gorgeous as always.
Thank you. So do you.
Oh.
You're gorgeous.
Okay.
Guys don't really look gorgeous, do they?
Why not?
Do we? I don't know. I mean, I don't.
I think I do.
You guys are gorgeous.
Thanks.
Gorgeous.
Handsome. We're handsome.
Right.
We're not gorgeous.
Do you feel put down if I say gorgeous?
She still has a reasonably raspy voice.
Yeah,
comparatively speaking.
Yeah, the voice of the AI does not sound raspy at all. That was not even the first thing that came to my mind listening to that voice. I was just like, sounds like a woman's voice. Like maybe a simple timbre or like pitch level is pretty close, but then that's like what percentage of women have their voice at that certain timbre pitch level, right?
And then there was this Reddit thread where someone found a like precedent for a legal case where someone actually got sued for impersonating a voice because this company had basically tried to hire like a voice actress, and then like that didn't work out, and so they hired someone who sounded like her, and they were successfully sued by the original actress, and they like the actress won the case, which is like interesting legal precedent. Like if this case ends up going anywhere, it might be there where it's like, I don't know, the court sided with the actress saying that they couldn't get you, so they found like a knockoff of you, and like I don't know, that resonated with the courts for some reason.
And in this case, the chat voice sounds transformative. And that's a wrap.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
And leave us a thumbs up if you like this episode.
Before we say goodbye, check out the description to know what we're watching next. Thanks for watching.